and then will go back to their town halls and look their constituents dead in the eyes and lie to them about how they brought that money over there. We fought for that. We had to fight you so that your constituents could actually get money. That is the reality of American politics. In this situation, like what I think is the best possible way to message out of these like obviously right-wing criticisms that Dana Bash launched pretty early on. Okay. This was adversarial. This was contentious. Dana Bash literally straight up daggered her on a lot of these issues that was going to happen regardless. Like, these were going to be questions. They should have been ready for it. They should have been primed for a lot of these questions. Some of them were reasonable questions. Some of them were unreasonably framed. Let's take a look.
Madam Vice President, Governor Walz, thank you so much for sitting down with me and bringing the bus. The bus tour is well underway here in Georgia. You have less time to make your case to voters than any candidate in modern American history. The voters are really eager to hear what your plans are. If you are elected, what would you do on day one?
Captions are so ass.
There are a number of things. I will tell you, first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class. When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people, I think that people are ready for a new way forward, in a way that generations of Americans have been fueled by hope and by optimism. I think, sadly, in the last decade, we have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and in an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans, really dividing our nation. And I think people are ready to turn the page on that.
So what would you do day one?
Day one, it's going to be...
So right off the jump, she's like, oh, look, I'm here to fix the middle class. I'm here to help the middle class. Not the worst answer, okay? I will say this. Unfortunately for Kamala Harris, and before people get mad at me for saying this, she is not a very charismatic individual, okay? She's just not. That is just the reality, okay? This is what you got. This is what you're working with, okay? It is what it is. But I have been a believer that, at the very least, putting forward exciting policies that would be helpful for Americans will at least make up for some of that lack of charisma, right? She's better than Joe in the sense that she's not a carcass, but yes, I did watch this yesterday. I'm going over it again because now I can pause it because we watched it live, okay? Like, and you can see that difference between her and Waltz. Like, you can see that difference between her and Gretchen Whitmer, okay? You can see that difference between her and AOC. I'll use an example of a woman of color. I'll use an example of a white woman, and I'll use the example, the immediate differences. Like, you can notice, like, there are some politicians who are they just have it more dialed in. That's it, you know, and some who are not very good. Okay. What does charisma have anything to do with politics? In the United States of America, it has everything to do with politics. What are you talking about? Let's continue.
It'll be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families, for example, extending the child tax credit to $6,000 for families for the first year of their child's life, to help them buy a car seat, to help them buy baby clothes, a crib. There's the work that we're going to do that is about investing in the American family around affordable housing, a big issue in our country right now. So there are a number of things on day one.
What about you?
Well, I'm excited about this agenda, too. As I said, the idea of inspiring America to what can be. And I think many of the...
Laid out the proposal, where not on the website. So here's a couple things that, like, she hasn't done that even the Biden camp had done that I really liked. Talking about rent control at the federal level. Like, Biden was literally swinging, okay, on his last couple of days before Nancy Pelosi came and was like, you're done, okay? Before they made the boss call, Biden was literally like, we're capping rents, okay? We're making it so that being a landlord is unfeasible. We're going to go after corporate landlords. That was another good one. The government is literally doing that already. The DOJ is already doing that. Talk about it, okay? Talk about it. The IRS is going after Coca-Cola. Talk about it. It's such a great way to just literally be like, hey, I know Republicans are constantly talking about like, oh, 80,000 new IRS agents or whatever. But you know what they're doing? They're going after Coca-Cola, which is found to be avoiding $16 billion of taxes, like damn near the entirety of their profit, okay? That's what we're doing. That's what the Democratic Party is here to do, okay? Enough of this nonsense where corporations just rob you blind, okay? They just run your goddamn pockets. Talk about it. It is so frustrating. It is so goddamn frustrating that they just won't openly say these things that are popular with the base, popular with all Americans, not just the base, but all Americans, okay? We're going after corporate landlords. We're going after people that are making your lives unaffordable. We're going after price gougers. This is the type of that you're supposed to say if you want to actually galvanize the base and you want to actually pick up additional people, okay? Now, the issue, on the other hand, is that those policies are objectively unpopular with a key constituency that matters a lot more than the average voter, donor class, and also the media. Now, here's the issue, okay? Here's the issue. When you openly state some of these things, you're constantly at odds with people that have the capacity to make or break your campaign. It is true, okay? It is true, especially when the Harris camp is currently relying on the media being relatively kind to them. That's why I said from the jump that this was paying the piper, okay? You came in, you sat down with Dana Fash, and you said all of the right-wing things so that the analysis afterwards was, well, Kamala Harris was really presidential, blah, 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 blah. She did a great job. This is exactly what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to moderate to a medium. You're supposed to moderate to the median voter. You're supposed to moderate to this mythical moderate out there who like is very pro-war and is invested in ensuring that Coca-Cola does get to still steal $16 billion of taxable revenue. You know, that's me. I'm the moderate voter. It's like, no, dude, that's just you. That's just you and the people that are paying your salary. Ain't nobody in Alabama's like, yeah, I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris now because she's not going after big grocers. Like, that's not a real person, okay? The mythical moderate is not a Raytheon executive, or the mythical moderate is not an executive in the Walton family or a member of the Walton family, okay? That's just like one guy, literally. Well, 7, technically.
These things that the vice president's proposing are things that we share in values. And the child tax credit is one we know that reduces childhood poverty by 1/3. We did it in Minnesota to have a federal partner in this. Unbelievable, I think, in the impact that we can make.
You talked about, you call it the opportunity economy. You are well aware that right now many Americans are struggling. There's a crisis of affordability. One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to the economy specifically.
So like I think this was literally one of the most right-wing questions that, like, framing wise, it's one of the most insane ways to frame a question. Okay. It's just like, it's so obviously slanted. It's basically like repeating something that Trump would say verbatim, but in a much more professional way. Because obviously Trump would never be able to string those sentences together without like calling Kamala Harris like fake black or something. Okay. Yes, I watched this yesterday. This is incredibly right-wing framing on this question. I mean, you can see it in her face. She's like look at her reception. She's like, oh God. Anyway, be for real, dude. That's a crazy. Like, of course, someone is gonna. Of course, it is understandable to say, "What do you have to say to the people that will say like, you know, you were vice president, like you didn't do anything?" Like, that's fine. That's an understandable question that's gonna happen. The media is so against the rent and housing stuff. Vox, New York Times, Wall Street Journal all ran main page stuff last 2 weeks attacking her for housing proposal not being exactly perfect in minor issues. If they don't bring up Trump's housing policy, is deport people to free up their houses. What the? Yeah, I know. I don't even want to get into that. I have a lot of issues with Kamala Harris's housing policies or at least the way she communicates her housing policies. We don't even fully know what any of her real policies are because there's no policy paper that like to work through at this situation. It is kind of crazy though. No, Lula, hold on. God damn it.
Because their groceries were less expensive. Housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
With the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office,
my dad is knocking like a
during
cop,
the height
dude.
of the pandemic, we saw over
My dad was knocking on the door like I owe him money, dude. Holy, I gotta pee. I'll be
10
back in a
million
second.
jobs were lost. People, I mean, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed. In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis. When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world. But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it, I know it. Which is why my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. For example, dealing with an issue like price gouging. What we need to do to extend the child tax credit to help young families be able to take care of their children in their most formative years. What we need to do to bring down the cost of housing. My proposal includes what would be a tax credit of $25,000 for first-time home buyers, so they can just have enough to put a down payment on a home, which is part of the American dream and their aspiration, but do it in a way that allows them to actually get on the path to achieving that goal and that dream.
So you have been vice president for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
The steps that you're talking about now, why haven't you done them already?
Well, first of all, we had to recover as an economy, and we have done that. I'm very proud of the work that we have done that has brought inflation down to less than 3%. The work that we have done to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors. Donald Trump said he was going to do a number of things, including allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Never happened.
I think that's it's again, right-wing slanted in terms of like, it reads as an attack, but I do think that it's a fair question to ask. And that it's one that the Kamala Harris campaign should be primed and ready to retort on, specifically because Donald Trump is going to be saying that non-stop. So you have to remember this. You have to remember that, like, this is obviously a thing that is out there, okay? And as vice president, she can't say, like, I have no power, I'm the goddamn VP, okay? That is the reality, but, like, doesn't matter. She's there to talk about the admin, okay? Talk about the Biden administration. And I don't even think she did a bad job with this answer, to be fair, okay? I don't think she did a bad job in this answer, okay? I guess the only notes that I would add on to it is simply that she is nowhere near as contentious with the Republicans as Republicans are with Democrats, okay? Every Republican, regardless of like how average they are, they always hold Democrats to account. Democrats, on the other hand, rarely ever hold the blame or hold the Republican feet to the fire. They never do that. And it's very frustrating because you should also talk about how you have a bold vision, but that bold vision oftentimes is met by obstruction. Republicans who don't want what's best for Americans. Republicans who will every step of the way try to obstruct and try to stop the radical agenda, the bold agenda, the progressive agenda of the Democratic Party in terms of Build Back Better, in terms of the IRA. And then will go back to their town halls and look their constituents dead in the eyes and lie to them about how they brought that money over there. We fought for that. We had to fight you so that your constituents could actually get money. That is the reality of American politics. And I think Democrats should say that, okay? That's it. Like, just hold them accountable, you know? It's just the truth. Like, many times when I get mad at Kamala Harris or Biden or the Democratic Party, I'm upset that they just literally don't say the truth because they're so fearful that, like, the media is immediately going to be like, whoa, what's going on here? You're on the Republicans a little bit too much or whatever. And it's like, you haven't tried it. Just do it. Republicans do it all the time. Just be truthful. Just be honest. Like, it blows my mind that, like, the the Democratic Party has gotten so fearful over the course of, like, especially the past 30, 40 years, where they, like, genuinely will cave to right-wing framing on these issues. It blows my mind.
We did it. So now, as I travel in the state of Georgia and around our country, the number of seniors that have benefited, I was in Nevada recently, a grandmother who showed me her receipts. And before we capped the cost of insulin for seniors at $35 a month, she was paying hundreds of dollars, up to thousands of dollars a month for her insulin. She's not doing that any
You
longer.
maintain Bidenomics is a success.
I maintain that when we do the work of bringing down prescription medication for the American people, including capping the cost of the annual cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000, when we do what we did in the first year of being in office.
That was the worst part, by the way, when she goes, so you're saying Bidenomics is successful? It is a ridiculous, like that, bro. Dana, do you work at Fox News? Like, you mean, oh, you're saying Bidenomics is successful? Like, that right there is straight up. That right there is straight up, like, you just drop the pretense of, like, being an objective journalist and you straight up hit that right-wing slant. Okay? I'm sorry. That is a ridiculous statement to make in the midst of an interview. Okay? Like, that's crazy. That's some, like, Newsmax. Okay? What are we doing here? Is this Fox News? Is she being interviewed by Fox News, or should she be interviewed by, like, actual adults? Okay? Anyway, like, there is a way to be adversarial without obviously hitting a typical right-wing slant on this loaded-ass question that you're asking. Some of the questions are actually perfectly valid. Most of the questions that she's asked are perfectly valid. But this one is, like, ridiculous. So the reason why I find this question particularly frustrating is because she's in the midst of, like, talking about a lot of the administration that she was a part of and the successful legislation that they passed. Joe Biden was way more confident about the administration's successes, whereas I think, like, the whole Bidenomics strategy from the Brandon camp came at a really bad time. But it was, I would say it came at a bad time because, like, Americans were suffering, but like, the Brandon camp was saying, like, oh, the soft landing is going to happen. Inflation is going to get under control by the time the election cycle comes around. So people will associate Bidenomics with, like, positive attitudes towards the economy. Okay. So when she slants it in this way, when she says, so you're saying Bidenomics is successful, that is just a direct right-wing attack. Okay. To be like, oh, all of the policy accomplishments that you're talking about, they still did not, they fell flat. They didn't help at all. And remember how everyone was talking about, like, the economy being horrible at the peak of inflation when wages had obviously not caught up and there was real negative wage growth. Okay. Overall, I think that is a very right-wing way to ask this question. The premise of the question is ridiculous. Like, basically amounts to, why haven't you already brought us the future in the present? Why aren't they asking Trump why he didn't do no tax on tips when he was president, for example? The point is, it's a new campaign season. I mean, yeah, but people, I think Dana and others would ask Trump that question if given the opportunity. Like, it's just Trump would not go on Fox News. I mean, sorry, CNN at this point, I don't think.
You maintain Bidenomics is a success.
I maintain that when we do the work of bringing...
Is this supposed to be a softball interview? No. That's why I said the early questions were valid. They were questions that they were going to receive. This is a little bit different to be like, oh, so you're saying Bidenomics is successful. That's like a cynical way to address what she is saying in this circumstance. Okay.
Down prescription medication for the American people, including capping the cost of the annual cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000. When we do what we did in the first year of being in office to extend the child tax credit so that we cut...
By the way, I will say she actually did a pretty good job of dealing with this.
Child poverty in America by over... When we do what we have done to invest in the American people and bringing manufacturing back to the United States so that we created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, bringing business back to America, what we have done to improve the supply chain so we're not relying on foreign governments to supply American families with their basic needs, I'll say that that's good work. There's more to do, but that's good work.
I want to get some clarity on where you stand on some key policy issues. Energy is a big one. When you were in Congress, you supported the Green New Deal. And in 2019, you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue.
So this one is a tricky one, right? Because they need to win Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania obviously has a lot of fracking voters, okay? The answer to this, and I will always stand on this, okay? The answer to this is literally that the Green New Deal, if implemented, even though it has been attacked mercilessly with the dumbest possible, is one of the greatest policy, like, top line, if you look at it without addressing some of the dumb neoliberal aspects of it, is one of the smartest ways to deal with climate change. Okay. I will always stand on this. Okay. Trying to restructure the American Energy Transition Program as a jobs program is brilliant. Okay. Using a former very successful initiative, New Deal, to package it in the exact same way, brilliant. The problem is Democrats are, and after they come up with a good policy, a sound policy, they will never actually defend it. And the moment that they attack, the moment that Republicans like pick it apart and go, "Oh, you just don't want me to eat a burger," or whatever, they just immediately drop it. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we didn't want that actually. Well, we didn't want that at all." It's so dumb. Do you think, like, just from a political standpoint, that the name Green New Deal is bad for branding now because they never defended it? I think that there is a lot of misinformation surrounding it. So once again, I'm running back to the same exact argument that I have over and over again, which is Democrats, say the truth. Say the truth, okay? I tweeted this while it was happening. I said, people in Pennsylvania and other places do not have a genetic predisposition to work fracking jobs. It's just money. A jobs program and restructuring of subsidies towards renewable energies will solve this issue. Dems shouldn't be afraid of communicating this. They won't, but oh well. Anytime this conversation comes up, you got to go like this, okay? You got to go like this. 75 to 85% of the government subsidies that taxpayers are paying into go, in terms of our energy initiatives, go directly to the fossil fuel industry. They line up the pockets of some of the richest people in this country, okay? These oil barons literally take all of those subsidies and make it so that fracking jobs are the only game in town for a lot of these places where industry is left. These people would, there is no difference tangibly there's no difference tangibly between a guy working at an oil rig versus a guy working at a renewable energy job, okay? A guy working at a solar panel factory. There's no difference. If you're getting paid $100,000 a year and you got good benefits, you got a good compensation package, you got good amenities such as paid emergency leave and whatnot, it doesn't matter to you. You don't have to do fracking. There is no world in which people are like, "Nah, you don't understand. I can't work a wind turbine. That's gay." Like it doesn't work that way. So why are we, as Democrats, funding and facilitating the oil and gas industry when they also recognize that this is a finite source of energy that is going to run out? It is making us less competitive in the global marketplace against China. Okay, that's stealing our lunch money in this field. Everybody understands that that is the future. I'm looking at the future. We're not going back. That's it. That's it. We cannot cede ground to China on this issue. And we currently have, as a consequence of the backwards thinking from these Republicans who tell you you can't get a $100,000 job working at a renewable energy sector. You can't work in the renewable energy sector and have the exact same pay structure that you have working at an oil rig. Those jobs are even better, as a matter of fact, than working in the oil rig. We're deadlocked on short-term profit motives and short-term thinking. I can tell you, I grew up in rural PA. No one in my whole town had anything to do with fracking. Yet every year they demanded their elected officials support it or they freak out. There's something deeply rooted in PA that's broken. The messaging you are speaking about won't break through in 50 years. Yeah, it's easy. It's because they watched industry leave Pennsylvania, okay? They saw steel mills and all of these other industries leave Pennsylvania, and then the only thing that came back to Pennsylvania was fracking jobs. So they're terrified of that going away. That's why people that have nothing to do with fracking in Pennsylvania are still pro-fracking. That's it. It's fear. You need a replacement industry that's better than learn to code. Yeah, learn to code is idiotic, okay? That's not what I'm saying at all. Like, people always talk about retraining doesn't work. Retraining doesn't work. Retraining doesn't work. It's like, dude, these people didn't grow up and learn to frack, okay? They were trained. They didn't have any jobs for 2 decades, and then the only game in town was an oil rig. So of course they learned how to frack. That's it. That's it. It's not even retraining. It's just training, okay? Like, people make it seem, people literally have this like weird mentality over this as though like a job is not a job, okay? That's it though. I think it's because they are legitimately fearful that the only jobs that have come back to Pennsylvania that have given people, you know, an opportunity to earn $100,000 a year starting salary are fracking jobs. And they don't want it to turn into the Appalachian region. They don't want it to turn into West Virginia with the coal jobs, by way of the coal jobs leaving. I cannot emphasize to CNN enough how much they are overemphasizing the importance of fracking to everyday Pennsylvanians. These dudes are fracking jobs. They ain't going to learn, though. You're right, but they're too stubborn. Okay, but it doesn't even matter. It's not like every single Pennsylvanian has a fracking job. Oh, yeah. I mean, this part is also correct. Can I just say that there's absolutely no evidence that fracking would change one vote against Harris? Is total. I agree with you. That's another part. It's like there are more people living in the suburban urban areas in Pennsylvania than there are in the rural areas where there are the frackers and those who are aligned with the fracking interests. Okay. So obviously there is a way to win Pennsylvania without like hyping up how much you love fracking. At this point, it feels like a national proxy for virtue signaling. Like, you have people outside of PA being more concerned about PA fracking than PA itself because of the message it sends. Exactly. It's crazy. They feel they must be pro-fracking to get the few votes in PA, but not pro-Palestine to get even more votes in PA. Yep, you nailed it. That's another part of the problem. Anyway, I have a chem degree, and most of the best paying jobs are in oil and gas. Renewables don't hire chem, so there are jobs going to be lost for people who have direct qualifications for these positions. Sure, you're not wrong. But also, you have to remember, no one is talking about shutting off the faucet tomorrow, okay? That would be ridiculous. That would have genuine, long-standing consequences for the American economy. It's about transitioning away from it, and that the first step towards that transitioning comes from changing the way that our subsidy structure works. If most of the subsidies are directly going to oil and gas, those are the jobs that are going to be much higher paying jobs, okay? I'm not saying she should be... Wolf did a study and found that there are less than 25,000 jobs from fracking. This is a state of 13 million people. There are 100,000 green jobs there. It's 4 to 1. The other part about this, of course, is that, again, it is more so what people think is that's why the other chatter said, I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm from rural Pennsylvania. All they talk about is fracking, even though they're not from an area that has any fracking jobs. It's this like fear that they have that it will turn into a West Virginia style situation or a Kentucky style situation if the fracking jobs leave, regardless of the fact that obviously Pennsylvania is a massive state with a ton more jobs. It's the same principle behind coal workers, coal miners. People talk about coal as though it's like one of the most important industries in this goddamn country. And it's like, there are more people. There are like 10x more people that work at Arby's than a goddamn coal mine in this country. Okay. But it's not about coal. Just like it's not about fracking. It's about what it represents. It's about industries leaving and leaving behind towns that are desolate. That's what it is. That's why it's a very frustrating conversation to have always. That's why I'm saying the way to message around it is talking about a transition away, talking about it from the perspective of a jobs program. People want jobs. People want good paying, well-paying jobs. The only way that the oil and gas industry can afford, as of 2022, the total number of U.S. coal mining jobs amounted to 43,524. Exactly. The problem with fracking also is that it's like ruining their own water supply. As much as I speak about PA from my youth and still have connections there, I can tell you here in Michigan, not a single person gave up about that whole fracking section. It was a waste of time. Yeah. They need soldiers, not coders. It is not about learning the code, by the way. I hate that. And it's not even about retraining. It's just about, dude, the energy sector for a second. You think if there was like a chip factory that opened in Pennsylvania tomorrow, okay, that hired 50,000 people and was offering them $100,000 starting salary, you think people would be like, oh, I don't know. I'm a fracker, brother. I can't do anything else. Like, no, they would be like, I love chips. I am number one. I'm Mr. Chip. Okay. Call me Dorito the way I'm chipping. It doesn't matter. It's just money. It's just money. It's a way to earn an honest wage, a livable wage. That's it. Nobody be like, fracking is in my blood, brother. I need to destroy the water supply. It's so stupid. But the way that we talk about it, the way that we talk about these jobs in America is so stupid. Like it's a part of their identity. Yeah, I saw this. poll, majority of PA residents want fracking to end. The clean energy industry performed much better with 69% of voters viewing it favorably and only 18% viewing it unfavorably. A clear majority of Pennsylvania voters, 55%, say they support the immediate or eventual end of natural gas drilling, also known as fracking, in the Commonwealth, according to a recent poll commissioned by the sustainably minded think tank Ohio River Valley Institute. It's just jobs. It's just jobs. That's it. Offer them better jobs. And the way to shut this conversation down is by restructuring subsidies, okay? And they should say that. Like, they should openly say that. Be like, look, these guys, these wealthy oil and gas giants, okay, they rely on taxpayer-funded subsidies to be able to offer these good-paying jobs in the fracking industry. The problem is, it's one, a finite source, as in it's going to run out, okay? And they know it too. And two, it is destroying the natural ecosystem and the water supply, okay? That's it. That's it. You mean to tell me that every single person that is currently working a fracking job, 13,000 people, if tomorrow they were working, earthquakes is different. Earthquakes is entirely dependent on the fault lines, okay? Oklahoma, yes to earthquakes. It happens in Pennsylvania, as far as I understand. Fracking does have the capacity to obviously greatly increase frequency and size and magnitude of earthquakes, as long as it is it's entirely dependent on the fault lines and the way that like Oklahoma, noticeable devastation due to an insane amount of earthquakes, both in magnitude and frequency, increase in magnitude and frequency, because of the way that the fault lines are aligned. Whereas I don't think it happens in what do you call it? What is this? IAAC? What is this? Laksha Jain? This is not the Hillary Clinton argument at all. Like, this is exactly what Hillary Clinton tried to do, and it failed miserably because people are naturally not going to take kindly suggestions of revamping or discarding the entire industry in favor of promises for something else. I hate this, dude. No, I'm not saying learn to code, okay? What the f do you mean? I hate this. It's so dumb. They can cause sinkholes and tremors, which are much more common. Earthquakes from fracking is an unrealistic concern because of how deep tectonic plates are. No, it's not an unrealistic concern in a place like Oklahoma. What are you talking about? It is a very real concern. But like I said, it's entirely related to how plates are aligned. So it doesn't end up increasing earthquakes in frequency and magnitude in some places, but it greatly increases earthquakes in size, frequency, magnitude in others, like Oklahoma. Again, yep, where I grew up in Lilletts, PA, there was a lot of manufacturing plants with military tech, Rolex, and other resources. Energy wasn't the dominant force. Now entertainment is starting to root its way into the area. If more tech places took root in PA, it would be far better. No one in my area gives a about fracking. They just want jobs. Exactly. People love talking about how, one, retraining doesn't work, and people love talking about learn to code. Neither of those things are what I'm mentioning here. Fracking is a jobs program, okay? Backed by U.S. subsidies. Shut the up. How did they learn to love to frack? Do you think they woke up one day and they were like, oh, thank God, I'm an oilman. I love being an oilman. That's not how this shit works. They got trained to work at a goddamn frack job. That's it. To the average person, is just $100,000 starting salary and a way to make an honest living. That's all people give a shit about, okay? I'm not saying, start working at a marketing agency and put on a septum ring and be bisexual to like rural Western Pennsylvania workers, okay? So stupid. If you got no industry for 2 decades and then the only game in town is fracking, you're going to be pro-fracking. That's it. And you don't want it to go away because you're terrified. Polls in PA say Pennsylvania voters support a serious crackdown on fracking operations. The Attorney General's recommendations to restrict fracking operations are supported by overwhelming number of Pennsylvania voters. Subsidies for fossil fuels are very unpopular, but public spending on clean energy is very popular. Exactly. Subsidy is the way you tackle this issue. I would go so far as to say this industry, this oil and gas industry, would not exist without your this oil and gas industry would not exist without your subsidies, okay? It would not exist without your subsidies. Why are we giving billions of fucking dollars to the oil and gas giants who are also themselves recognizing that there is a finite amount of time? There is a finite amount of fossils in the ground and are also hedging their bets and literally hedging their bets and donating or purchasing green energy companies already. How come they get to do that, but you can't see it? It's so stupid. I would just keep saying China is stealing our lunch money, and we are pumping these companies that are ruining your water supply chock full of subsidies so they can be sustainable. Restructure the subsidies towards a transitional industry that has more staying power, that looks towards the future. That's it. Anyway, we had this back and forth about this fracking side. It's obviously an endlessly frustrating conundrum that the Democrats find themselves in, but the fundamental principle remains, you know. They are running scared, as always. China opens more coal plants every year than the rest of the world combined. Should we do that too? Weird take. Yeah, dude, you're right. China is also not the dominant force in renewable energy. You're so right about that. Bro, what did you just like read the headline of an Associated Press article or something, or like a foreign policy magazine headline headline, and then just moved on with your life? Like you saw one meme and you're just in here like a Republican repeating the meme? Dog, what are you talking about? Wake the f up, okay? They own renewable energy. Literally, they own it. That's crazy, man. The U.S. will install 60 gigawatts of renewables in 2024. Meanwhile, China is installing at least 10 gigawatts of wind and solar generation capacity every fortnight. China is installing the wind and solar equivalent of 5 large nuclear power stations per week. They also own all of the natural materials necessary for this, too, globally. We are goddamn apes, dude. I swear to God, we're monkeys, and not like the cool kind, like Wukong. Okay, we straight up are just like becoming cavemen. Literally, we're like, I don't care. They still have ghost cities. Anyway, it's just so sad to see American empire in a death spiral, and like all of the people becoming increasingly more reactionary in that circumstance, in that consequence, instead of like trying to understand what the f is going on. They're like, nope, I'm closing my eyes, I'm plugging my ears, I will never hear you, I will never understand it. I just think that we should do more of the bad things. Okay, who gives a f about the future? Here, China is on track to meet 2030 renewable energy targets 6 years ahead of schedule. Holy, sorry if I gave you random ass fossil facts. I heard fossils and forgot you were talking about oil and anyway. Trump's solar tariffs cost 62,000 American jobs, but you never hear anyone push him on this because no one gives a f about solar jobs, only coal and fracking jobs. Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder why no one gives a f about solar jobs, but everyone gives a f about oil and gas giants. Perhaps, once again, and I will reiterate this, the 85% of the multiple billions of dollars in subsidies that we have allotted for renewable energy and just energy initiatives in general go directly to the fossil fuel industry. And then they take all of that money and they pump it directly back into lobbying and also ads. So then the very demons in the media will keep hyping up coal and oil and gas as though that's the only game in town, is the only thing that you have to care about. Just like at the top of the hour, when I serve you a 3-minute ad break, you're going to see sometimes an ExxonMobil ad. Okay? Anyway, here's the 3-minute ad break now. Okay? It's kind of like a subsidy if you have a Twitch Prime. What is this? Matt just had a perfect take on this.
To get into, this was the social event of CPAC, a Benny Johnson creation. This is his new job as Toilet Paper USA's creative director. Someone forwarded us the invite. It was called the America Fest, and the actual email was just like a night of bourbon, beer, and bacon. For me, I'm not exaggerating. Yeah. And it's signed off with Dilly Dilly.
Oh, and the icon was a dabbing astronaut.
Of course. Oh, yeah. And it was at Cadillac Ranch, which is
a bar called Cadillac Ranch,
which is one of those fake-ass Western honky-tonk chain. It's got a Cadillac on the roof. It's wacky.
It was like stepping into Benny Johnson's brain, and there was the drinks menu was just like build the wall, whiskey neat. Yeah. Mexico will pay for it, tequila sunrise, and then just the Kavanaugh, which is just a beer.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they didn't even have any puns.
Again, and the only way it was done up to make you know that it was America Fest. This is like Benny Johnson's projection of what makes America YOLO and epic, and the answer is punks. All throughout the bar were life-size cardboard cutouts of Chris Pratt, Tom Brady, Tim Tebow, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Benny Johnson is one of the gayest men in America. I swear to God. It's like he is literally like he's up there. He is Olympic level a gay man.
And
Jackie
Drake.
Chan. Jackie Chan.
And there was
also.
one of Jackie Chan too. The only cardboard cutout of a woman was of Marilyn Monroe.
No, no,
was an
Monica Lewinsky.
There was an AOC one that was just there to be yelled at and defaced.
And Charlie Kirk was there. DJ TJ showed up.
Don
and he did
Jr..
an idiot knucklehead speech about how you guys have the balls to be assholes on college campuses, and I love you for it. Yeah, I felt like bone deep despair. I was feeling like Reverend Toller. Now, I was on some like Maoist third worldish. I was just thinking like, oh, we're all on the same side. These guys aren't my enemy, really. I mean, we're all in the imperial core. We're all the exploiters. Like, we're the bad guys in this. No disentangling me from them. We are all accountable for this. No, I felt deep despair. And I also finally got the concept of Zen fascism. These guys have embraced like a Buddhist concept of nihilism, where it's just, look, we found ourselves by total random fact of fate to have been born at the end of this imperial moment. We have access to this incredible bounty of exploitation, of the bounties of exploitation, and we're going to use it and have fun. You're also in the same boat as us. You were born in the same situation. You have access to this same bounty. Why don't you just enjoy it? Yeah, everything's going to die. Everyone's going to die. Sure, it's not sustainable, but we're going to be the last to die, so why not enjoy it? Why fight against it? And I actually finally got the point of all of that hypocrisy mongering that Republicans do, where they say, oh, you drive a car. Oh, you use a cell phone. It's not to try to get you in some petty hypocritical gotcha. It's to say, we're all in this together. We're all on the same side. Why don't you just enjoy it? Why are you torturing yourself? Why are you like,
oh, this is actually bad, and oh no, we're exploiting all these people.
yeah, but that can't change it. You're in this situation. Just eat the slider, drink the goddamn beer, and enjoy yourself. Trigger the libs. Have fun. Because they always have that voice in their head, and that's why they need to trigger libs all the time. They need to push it out. They've embraced this nihilism, but they also know what they've done, and so it's never going to be actually fun. They're never going to really be able to be decadent. They're never really going to be able to be purely hedonistic. They need to have an enemy that they can smite at any given moment to smite their conscience.
Pretty good. I mean, Matt is incredibly insightful. Yeah, amazing takes. They aren't nihilistic. Wait, what do you mean? In my opinion, there are very few people that are involved in American politics at the death rattle of empire that aren't deeply nihilistic. Literally, listen to the conversations that we're having amongst liberals about Gaza. Okay, you are insane. Like, liberals literally keep telling you to shut the up. Shut your stupid ass mouth up about death and destruction in the Middle East. Like, just don't. You're the bag up. You're ruining it for us. We're running a joy campaign on a daily basis. And it's like, it makes no sense. It makes no sense because like our entire economy at this point is geared towards churning out these outcomes. Okay. Permanent of the third world. There is nothing else. Okay. All of those good jobs are in weapons manufacturing. Ironically, of course, even the people that work at those defense industries on the worker side, on the labor side, they don't even get paid well, okay? As well as they used to at the very least. It's all executives. It's all the same financialized garbage, okay? That's why Boeing planes keep exploding and their doors are falling off the hinges, okay? Because everything is about turning over, eking out marginal profits year over year, and improving shareholder value.
Particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania. Sure. Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
In 2019, I believe, in a town hall.
Like, please, just at least do the thing. Like, at least be like, listen, like, I think that, like, there's an endpoint to this, and the oil barons recognize that endpoint. That's why they keep buying renewable energy companies, because obviously there is a finite amount of fossils in the ground. Like, you think there's forever? What are we doing? It's not forever. We got to transition out of it in order to both save the environment Because whether you like it or not, we're not going to Mars, okay? We are not gonna live in Mars. We are living on Earth, and we're ruining the planet that we're living in. Like, you might not recognize it. You might go, la, 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 I can't hear you. But why the do you think Florida is underwater? Parts of the country are underwater half the year, and the other parts that are not underwater are on fire half the year. What do you think is happening there? Like, the Earth is screaming bloody murder. We're living on top of it, and we're acting like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Short-term thinking. It's good. Like, what the?
Paul, you said you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yes. So it changed in that campaign?
In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
What made you change that position at the time?
Well, let's be clear. My values have not changed. I believe it is very important that we take seriously what we must do to guard against what is a clear crisis in terms of the climate. And to do that, we can do what we have accomplished thus far. The Inflation Reduction Act, what we have done to invest, by my calculation, over 10.
She's saying I ran against fracking in 2019, but it doesn't matter. I was the vice president in 2020 and presided over an administration that obviously didn't ban fracking. Shut the fuck up. That's what she's saying. Okay. Come on, guys. You understand what she's saying. It's not a good enough answer. She should literally just say, look, I'm done. I'm not going to repeat it again. Okay. You know what I think she should say. I've repeated it 1,000,000 times over. Okay. So when she gets hammered on it again, she's like, did you see any evidence? Then she says something insane.
Probably $1 trillion over the next 10 years, investing in a clean energy economy. What we've already done, creating over 300,000 new clean energy jobs. That tells me, from my experience as vice president, we can do it without banning fracking. In fact, Dana,